Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast today. So this is the recruitment podcast where we're going to be going over and interviewing some of the leaders in the recruitment space across the globe at the moment. And today we've got a very special guest, Donnie Gupton, who is actually the founder of the Relevant Recruiter coaching program and also Aura Marketing. And they are disruptors in the recruitment market, making really, really big moves, helping recruiters get more clients, increase their social presence, and much, much more. So, Donnie, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, Harry, thanks for having me here, man. I'm excited to be here and hopefully drop some value.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people listening, probably picking up every word you say as what to do, with their LinkedIn, with their online presence, and everything like that. So, I suppose a good place to start is summarize sort of, in a few minutes, exactly what it is that you do, how you help recruiters, and how you've got to this stage, where you are at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the quick backstory is like most people, I kind of stumbled in the recruiting industry. I didn't go to college to become a recruiter. And I actually was working with my dad out of college, grew our family business using kind of social strategies, and give the Cliff Notes version of that. We grew that business from under $1 million to over 6 million in a 3-year span, focused in kind of the floor covering industry. After we kind of scaled that business, I had realized at that point in time, I was partnered with my dad, that I really didn't want that industry. I didn't want to be doing what I was doing. So I went out and wanted to coach, naturally went after other home improvement companies. And along that journey, kind of stumbled into the staffing and recruiting. And by helping people, we figured out exactly what we wanted to do and make the impact. And what I saw in the industry was, and this was 7 years ago now, I saw kind of everything was still old school kind of tactics and approaches. And so I kind of made it my mission to help recruiting agencies, leverage their desk with technology, build more forward facing personal brands by leveraging their online presence and things like that, really to attract inbound leads is the main goal. So, at the end of it, what we're doing is we're really taking subject matter experts, recruiting experts, and giving them the kind of the voice and the platform to get that message out there. And not be the best kept secret in the marketplace anymore. So that's the Cliff Notes version of it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. No, I love the story. And I think, like you say, most people stumble into the recruitment market.
Yeah.
It's sort of that happened to me as well. But yeah, it's interesting you say, 7 years ago that everything was more traditional. I still feel like it kind of is. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
you
Yeah.
are the same way. I still feel like it's a very traditional market. But I think one of the things you do that adds so much value is make the switch for a lot of recruiters. And instead of relying on referrals, word of mouth, and outbound strategies like cold calls, you're getting inbound leads.
Yeah.
So I suppose it'd be good to cover for the audience, a quick summary as to what are inbound leads, if people aren't sure of that, and why are they so different to other types of leads? What makes them so effective?
Yeah.
How can we get inbound leads?
Yeah. I don't know if this is the proper definition of it, so to speak, but this is my definition of it as I'm just looking for a warm phone call. So somebody that's going to actually get onto my calendar that actually wants to speak to me rather than me breaking down doors to disrupt their day to get onto their calendar. And so that's kind of the idea is basically you're going to get somebody that knows you're going to be calling, is on your calendar. And what that allows you to do is control the call. And that immediately changes your positionality rather than kind of chasing and being desperate. Now you get to lead the call and be the authority. You get to ask the right questions, challenge their current status quo way of doing things, really get an understanding. Would you value and want to partner with this company, for example, rather than just kind of taking anything that falls into your lap, or rather than only just taking the things where you can actually effectively bust down that door. And that ultimately, when you get an inbound lead, if you're doing it right, you actually get a much, much more qualified prospect. So it kind of goes away from focusing on just sheer volume and 100 dials a day into a lot of my clients just value on, hey, 5 to 8 qualified meetings, then they can go convert and close those at a higher level because they're actually, again, people that want to be on the phone with you. So that inbound lead is usually generated with some sort of social conversation, or it's generated through content or a lead magnet. There's a lot we can kind of dig into from there. But it's, everybody kind of has their own definition. What we're just looking for is warm phone calls, people that really want to be on the phone, with the person on the other end. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it perfectly. And it's probably very different to the majority of recruiters, as in that's going to be a different conversation as to 99% of the conversation they're having on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis over the phone, right? It's
Yep.
completely cold prospects, people that probably don't want to, receive the calls from them. Not to mention the fact, I don't know about you, but it's so much harder to get people on the phone
Yeah.
now, like as from a cold call.
Hmm.
You need to be having so much more buy-in. You just need to warm prospects up so much more. And I
Right.
think there's a huge, huge opportunity that you probably see as well in the recruitment space, where there's like a gap in the market basically for recruiters, a lot of them to have this social presence.
Yeah.
Right, warms people up so much, and in other markets like marketing, everyone's building their personal brand and things like
Right.
this. But I don't know about you, I don't see it as much in the recruitment market, right? I think it's just because maybe lack of awareness. I don't think people truly understand how important it can be to get yourself out there, to increase your social presence, or things like that. So, have you seen any like noticeable changes with the people you've worked with when they've started posting? Like they've been able to attract more inbound leads. It's been warmer conversations. Have you noticed things like that?
Oh, 100%. My clients that go all in have a tremendous amount of success with doing this. And there's still such an opportunity. I think you hit the nail on the head, Harry, is like there's not a bunch of people that are all in on this, where if you go into a different industry vertical, you go into my space of coaching, you don't have nobody's having conversations about personal branding or content. You just know you need to do it. I think that
Mm,
this is just kind of a result of what the leaders of the industry in recruiting, and I'm not saying it is a negative thing. It's just where the market's always been based on being on the phone, and so that's where people always go with the skills. And to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't be good on the phone. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a skilled cold caller. Certainly on the recruiting side of things, you need to be able to do some disruption. So that's not what this is about. It's not about picking or choosing. It's just a matter of, well, what's working right now, and what do I desire, and how do I want to run my business. There's a lot of different ways we can set that up. But yeah,
hmm
I mean, that's what you see is kind of what I've made my personal mission, with my relevant recruiter program and my Aura marketing, is to get qualified recruiters out there to go build their brand. Because a lot of what you even see on LinkedIn is a lot of recruiters just talking to the echo chamber, seeking validation from other recruiters. They're not actually leading their market and making an impact. And that's where there's so much opportunity, is to actually pick a core target market, really show up, lead, serve them, connect with them, add value to them. And then, yeah, man, I've got clients that are returning 7 figures from their online presence. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of how committed are you. But a lot of the things that come into building an effective brand online is understanding it's really truly a compound effect. And most people, and that's where these kind of strategies they work so hard against each other, so to speak, right? That like if you've been in the traditional way where it's like, oh, well, I'm making a bunch of calls and there's these different little dopamine rushes throughout the day from that call, where you kind of see, oh, well, there might be some success here. Well, when I'm doing the content, there's a little bit more delay with that. And a lot of people quit the content game because they don't get the instant success that they're after. But the content game, shoot, man, I mean, what I've been able to do for my own personal brand, nobody really listened to me for the first several years of me doing this. And that's what you have to be willing to go through. And then eventually the compound effect, if you've got a good message and a good market, you know what you're doing, of course, a good product to be able to deliver, then you can capture more people, right?
hmm
But so many people quit on that process before they take the time to allow their market to know them, like them, and trust them. And there's not an exact roadmap. What took me 3 years could take somebody else 3 months. What took me 3 years could take somebody else 5 years, right? And it's just, what are you committed to? What do you want? And then staying after it.
I think, yeah, that has summarized it absolutely perfectly. I think, especially in this market where people are sometimes reliant on just making tons and tons of calls, blasting calls, it's hard to learn delayed gratification in some
Right.
ways. Like, if you're
Yep.
desperate for clients, you probably can get clients on pretty quickly if you're making 200, 300 dials a day. The problem is, it's not high leverage at all. It's not really long term sustainable, and it's just not repeatable over time, right? You want
Well,
to
and
be
I
have
think
a
one of
thing.
the other things too
Sorry.
that's important is, what is your relationship with that client going to be? Are you developing an actual relationship, or did they just slide you another job order like they did 15 other recruiters? And so you're busy, you're working on something, but you're not making very much money. And so a bigger
Mm,
part of what I'm trying to get with my clients, and I don't care what the business model is, retain, contain, contingent. There's all these different ways of doing it now, right? I think people should be focused on partnerships. And if you really want to become kind of more of a relevant recruiter that is respected, then learn how to say no. No, I won't do that. No, I'm not going to do it this way, because everybody else is in the market to say yes. Right. And so there's
mm.
more value when you're saying, nope, I don't do those ones, or nope, I'm not going to work in this type of an agreement and arrangement. I'd rather, if it were me running my own recruiting business, I'd rather only work on one position that I had a partnership with than 15 where I don't. right? I'm not saying you can't win. I'm not saying the models, all of that's what everybody gets to choose. But I think that moving forward, the COVID economy is well beyond us now. And right now, I think in July 2024, what people are experiencing is a normal recruiting market. And there's all these people that had a lot of success through COVID, but didn't have any systems or processes or a brand that they're leaning on that they've built during that time. And now we're on the other side of COVID. Their legacy clients have left, their repeat business and the
Mm,
referrals are gone, and they don't know what to do. And so I think that's a big part of this is like, well, sticking to your brand, building out systems, because I can tell you my clients right now that have went through my program years ago and implement these things, they're not struggling like you hear a lot of people out there. They've got stuff set up, they're winning, they're growing actually in this economy. But I can take another conversation with somebody who's not doing anything like that doesn't have the systems, that didn't take the time to do that kind of has a reactive business. And that's the struggle part
mm,
right now, right?
mm.
So they're kind of reacting. They're on defense with their business rather than being on offense with their business. So yeah, I think outside of like what you're saying is like, yeah, it's not leveraged, it's not efficient, but it's also what kind of relationships and business are you getting from that, right?
Mm.
Um, and again, this is all theory until you kind of put it into practice, right? Of course, people can get great relationships off of cold calling too,
Yeah,
but this kind
yeah.
of tees that system up a little bit more for me to be able to, if I'm generating an inbound lead, that allows me to get that person on the calendar when I want them on the calendar. When I get on the phone call with them because they're on my calendar, now I can control that call. Now I can do, like I said, that necessary investigative work to see if this is somebody I would want to partner with. Can I fill this role? Do I feel like I would want to put people in a company like this? Am I inspired about the impact I can make with that? And I think that's a different way
Mm.
of looking at it rather than like how many orders can I get, how many transactional things. And so that for me, I don't really try to work with people that are into here to transact. I really look for people that are trying to make an impact and lead their market.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think that's such an important thing, and something I run into speaking to a lot of recruiters as well is around the mindset around this.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to change the mindset. I think it happens a lot in business. People start out typically with more of a scarcity mindset. You want to just see what you can
Yeah.
bring on, hold it very tight and close to your chest. But that is a low perceived status position to be in. A higher perceived status position to be in, which is when you've got the personal brand and everything like that, is setting very clear boundaries. And
Yep.
what I think a lot of people, I don't know if you've recognized this, I know I recognize this for myself a lot, is when you set higher boundaries, you expect a lot more people to say no and be disqualified and you lose more business. But what happens, I found,
It's
is
the
the
opposite.
opposite.
Yep.
People respect you more, and you can form true partnerships instead of sort of like promising something that you think you might be able to do, but you're not 100% sure just because you want to get the business on.
Right.
You'll lose it just as quickly if you do
Yep.
that. Whereas if you have the hard conversations to start and build the status, I think it leads itself to long-term relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you hit the nail on the head too with the comment about scarcity. I think that's what really handcuffs people is like, oh, well, where's my next order? Where's this going to come from? And it's like that comes from a scarce mindset. When you have more of an abundant mindset, you know that there's going to be more to come. There's plenty out there, and I'm willing to say no because I know there's another fish that's going to swim along that's going to like what I have to, offer here, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is, I think, probably one of the biggest shifts that somebody can make to make their, do their recruiting business is go put themselves into a really uncomfortable place. Like you said, like I've said, like, hey, start saying no to some things, create some boundaries from yourself. And what you'll find is exactly opposite of what your mind is telling you is your mind's not
It's
right on
funny
this
how
one,
it works.
right? Your mind thinks that you need to be the nice person to be available for everybody. But at the minute that you go, no, I'm not available, then instantly people go, oh, there must be something important about him. Oh, he respects his time and his, so there's a lot of different posturing kind of plays that really,
Mm,
really help. Right. And I think one of the things that I focus on, again, I'm looking for people that want to be viewed as kind of the top person in the market or being a leader in their market. And I know that can overwhelm some people, but some people already are that and they just aren't stepping into it. But, you know, if you really want to go all in to be viewed as that person, then the abundant mindset is going to be the part that is important because you don't capture attention by just being another fish in the sea, right? You need to be
mm-hmm,
able to stand out boldly and be looking to truly make an impact in your market and truly lead, people within the market, not just looking at putting bodies in seats.
yeah.
And there's a lot of good recruiting firms out there that just need to be able to kind of share their message more, that they're really good at what they
Mm,
do. Right. And that's one
mm.
of the things with branding and marketing is like you have to drive your own narrative. If not, somebody else is doing it for you.
No, I completely agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there as well in terms of a lot of the recruiters that I speak to, they've got fantastic networks. They're like 20, 30 plus years of experience,
Yep.
fantastic at doing what they do. I feel like they just lack this. I don't know if it's drive or anything to push themselves out there. Maybe it's a comfort thing. But for someone who's watching this, maybe who ticks all those boxes, they know that they're good at candidate sort of thing, know they're good at recruiting, they're good at what they do, they've got a good network. They're just not sure how to put themselves out there or what content, that's usually a thing I commonly hear. They're just not sure what to do. What sort of advice would you give someone like that listening right now on what they can do?
Just start. The bottom line is most people are overthinking it. Even people that come into my coaching program, what they're looking for is my blessing. Is this good enough? Would you say this? Is that okay to say? And actually, the best way to approach it is just be willing to put stuff out and don't view any post as a success or failure. Use every post or every piece of content that you're producing as a way to learn about your market. The more you produce, the more you share, the more you learn what your market wants. Well, what does my market want? Okay, well, what are the trends that are happening right now? This is one of the biggest shifts that's happened in social media over the last couple of years, probably due to TikTok and the way TikTok algorithm is set up is no longer, and you think about this, Harry, I don't know what your scrolling habits are per se, right? But and there's a lot that I've heard that LinkedIn's going to be kind of shifting this way too. But it's the for you. You go into TikTok, for example, you're not watching people you follow. You're watching the algorithms watching you so closely that they're going to
Mm,
just feed you another video that's similar to what you're interested in. So going back, well, how do I start this thing? Well, I want to understand my target market because that's going to be a big place for you to be able to cut through the noise. If you're going to be a generalist trying to cut through the noise, it's going to be tough, right? So I want to have a target market, and then I want to talk about and I want to bring up and I want to become an expert of everything. And this is the key thing here that the hiring persona is interested in. So this is where there's another level. A lot of people understand the concept of picking a niche, a target market, but what you want to understand is that person who's actually doing the hiring for the company, I call it a hiring persona, they have a day in hell that you need to understand. And then they have a day in heaven that they desire that you need to understand better than them. And your ability to create content that speaks to that is what's going to position you as being a solution to their problem, position you as being the person that can get them out of that day of hell and give them into that day of heaven. And so one of the
mm,
easy ways to start with that, Harry, is just simply telling stories. What kind of success have you had recently? What kind of wins have you had? And just tell me a story about it. Be real, be authentic, right? People can sniff that stuff out now. But storytelling is the easiest place to start. And so the example I'll give, and I always ask this to people when I'm on a call, is like, well, have you had any calls with clients or candidates this week? And everybody's always, yes, I have. On any of those calls, did you maybe give them a tip? Sure. Any advice or give any value? Actually, I did. Cool. Go turn that into a post because that's all this game is about, right? It's just simply sharing your story, sharing your message. Now, of course, there's strategic ways that we go to after that, right? But in terms of getting started,
mm-hmm.
give yourself permission. Don't look at it
Yeah.
as a post of success or failure based off of likes or comments. Make this game about like, hey, I'm committed to posting for 30 days, for example, and then see what
Mm-hmm.
happens, right? And
Mm-hmm.
30 days isn't enough if we're being honest, right? So, yeah, it's a compound effect. And I mean, but I'll just tell you, I've shared my own success on here, but my friend Tom Caravella, I know, has added 7 figures to his recruiting business. He's got the MSL Talk podcast. He has over 200,000 monthly downloads on his podcast. That was stats from last year when I had him on my show. So he was one of the very first people I helped in my Relevant Recruiter program. And if you go see Tom Caravella's page on LinkedIn, you'll see it. The guy's a celebrity and he's in the most micro niche of micro niches, medical science liaisons. Never even heard of those before I was working with them. Right. So I use him as the example because there's so much head trash that people have, so many stories about their niche and their size and this, that, and the other. MSLs, the guy dominates it, right?
Yeah.
And it's and all he's doing is create, sharing his online presence, sharing his stories. Guy's written a book. He's just done everything. He's fully committed to making an impact in that industry,
Mm,
and kind of goes back. You've said it, and I've said it, and it's like you have to have something here. You can't build a brand out of thin air. You can't build this brand as being a recruiter and you're not a good recruiter and you don't deliver talent. That's not what this is about, right? So this is for people that are actually like, hey, I know how to recruit. I've got something. I want more. I believe I've got, an impact to make, and I want more people to know that. That's where this relevant recruiter kind of process comes into play.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I love that though, because I hear it so much that, oh, I don't think my niche is quite right for it, or my market isn't big enough. It shows you
Yeah.
you can make it work in any market,
Oh yeah.
whatever, whatever market you're in, you can make it work. It comes down to how badly you want it to work, right? I think a lot
Yeah.
of people get disheartened with maybe the lack of likes they get in the beginning, and that's such a common metric for people to judge the performance of their post on
Right.
how many likes they got. I had a post that I put up a couple of weeks ago, and I think literally got like 3 likes. It was one of the worst posts I put up, but I won 2 clients from it
Yeah.
because of exactly what you said, how well it resonated with people and
Yep.
what their day in hell looks like and what their day in heaven looks like. Oftentimes people don't want to like your post because I don't know if they're working for someone, you don't want the colleagues to
Right.
see. There's so many reasons, especially on LinkedIn. It's not like the other social channels, what I find. Instagram, no one's really going to see if you like anything.
Right.
TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn's very different. You feel like you have to have a professional image at all times.
Yep.
Um, I just think it's completely unfair people judging the success of all of their posts just off a like metric, right? There's so
Yeah.
much more that they can
Yeah.
do. So,
I think that's probably one of the biggest things for somebody that's either new to this game, not having the success that they want, or thinking about getting started in this game is like shelf that. Don't even allow that
mhm.
be a part of your journey. And understand that like posting is kind of like it's almost like going to the slot machines at the casino, right? You post and you post and you post, and every once in a while one hits, right? And
Yeah,
that's why you
yeah,
come back and keep on posting. But yeah, man, I mean, I think that's definitely a lot of opportunity out there for those that want it, like you said, that are willing to
that's
make
it.
this work. How bad do I want this to work? That's got to be a big
Mm,
part of this. There's no magic pills out there, right? And I think a lot of the conversations that happen on social media, and when I'm kind of a novice and I'm looking from the outside looking in, and I see John, the recruiter over there posting, and he's got 15 likes. But then you look at who's actually liking it, John's stuff, and it's 15 other recruiters. It's like, well, that doesn't move the needle. If you're in the game for validation, I can't stand that personally. It makes me
mm,
cringe when I see other recruiters talking down to hiring managers or just looking and seeking validation for others. It's to me, it's just a lost opportunity. That's why it makes me cringe. It's like, go talk to your audience, go get interested in what they're interested in, and you nailed it, man. I mean, I just posted yesterday. It's a picture about my trip from Sedona. There's 65 likes on it last time I saw. It's like several thousand, impressions in this point in time. It's not going to generate any inbound traffic for me.
mm,
You know what I'm
mm.
saying? Now, you post that because it's a part of the compound effect. What it's doing is broadening my awareness, right? Now, when I follow up with more of a strategic post, it's going to have 5 likes on it and generate me 2 qualified calls. It's the opposite. One of the extreme examples that I use, Harry, is like if I have foot fungus and I go online and I see this, this foot doctor, out there showing that he's got the cure for foot fungus, I might really want that cure. I don't know that I'm going to go like and comment that and be like, hey, man, my toes are super bad. Um, can you hook me up with the cream? It's the same
For
thing of like
sure.
when you're going and you're saying, hey, man, you're struggling with your recruiting business, you're struggling to generate leads and this, that, and the other. Nobody's going to be like, that's me. We suck at this, right? Or on the flip side of like, hey, I've got this nice open position. No candidates going like, hey, I'm employed right now, but let me go ahead and I'm interested. So people have to understand and
Mm,
understand the whole kind of game and the context, and that revolves you getting out of your own head and out of your ego, right? And just like it's more about this is a business, and I think that's one of the things
mm,
that is really interesting about recruiting is we've already kind of talked about this. Is like, hey, if I'm running a marketing agency, having a marketing plan that's a part of it. It's not a debatable thing.
yeah.
If I have a real estate business, same thing. If I have a construction business, same thing. But for whatever reason in the recruiting industry, like there's this still debatable part of like, oh, well, do I need to do marketing and personal brand? Yeah, you do. And if you're not, you're missing out. There's so
Yeah.
much opportunity here still for recruiters to go out and win and add value and become that authority in their market.
Absolutely. I think it's like a blue ocean for personal branding and things like that. Like it's
Yep.
just so much easier to compete in this space compared to other spaces. And it has a knock-on effect, I believe, to every part of the business. Like you said, the content, I think a lot of people will get it sort of misconstrued, then they feel like it's to promote themselves, to promote what they're doing. The whole point of this is to generate business, really. At the end of the day, we run a
Yep.
business here. We're here to acquire traffic and funnel it into landing pages or offers, or things that will generate business. This is what this is all about. So it's not necessarily like, it doesn't need to be all egotistical.
Yep.
And I think that's another misconception people have. They feel like posting about themselves is, going to make them look bad. But the whole point is just to generate traffic to your business,
Right.
whether that's telling a story, getting people to buy in. It's all just around, generating traffic, because, the more numbers, the more eyeballs you're going to see, warm leads you see your posts, you're just going to have more business there. So yeah, I really think it's easy to stand out in this marketplace, and the benefits are huge, because not only are more people seeing your stuff on LinkedIn, but if you are pairing that with LinkedIn outbound marketing, i.e. doing DMs, sending connection requests, what do you know? I bet you see a huge difference between someone who never posts on LinkedIn, someone who has a huge personal brand. The connection acceptance rate is probably going to be like 5 times, right? That means they're going to
Everything.
get
It
5
impacts
times more
everything,
outbound
like
out.
you said. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Impacts
it
your
just
connection requests,
can't
impacts
go.
your LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
messages, impacts your email, messages. And especially when you're really committed to owning a market, it trickles down, right? So yeah, what we want is that bread and butter here. Here's your inbound lead, but it actually impacts the other parts of your business in so many other
Yeah.
ways, right? And the other thing too, that's, one of the things that I'm so close to it. So to me, having a personal brand so obvious. But then I saw this post the other day how somebody like equated the personal brand to what you're saying, which is like braggadocious and like, oh, you didn't have a personal brand. And it's like, I don't have my brand so that I can get more people to know me. I have my brand so I can generate more business, so I can impact more people. And when you start to think about it that way, it's actually a lot lighter for yourself. You don't need to build a personal brand for your own ego or so people can see you more. You build your personal brand to serve your audience. And that's one of the things when it talks about content, you already talked about, it's not about a self-promotion. That's like
Mm.
1990s marketing. Here's 3 reasons why you should join the Relevant Recruiter program. Nobody gives a shit about that anymore. Nobody cares. Like nobody markets that way. Nobody talks that way. We are in a society that's what's in it for me. And all you need to do is commit to being the one that delivers what they want. It's that simple. And how do I do that? I obsess over my market. How do I capture attention? I look at the biggest trends and where all the attention's at in the marketplace. And then I go create content to go feed right into that. It doesn't have to be that much. It doesn't have to be harder than that,
Mm. Mm.
and looking at leading my market. Well, what does that look like? What are the pains and problems and frustrations and challenges that they're having? And what kind of content can you create that starts to showcase solutions? How can you service the market? What are the tips and tricks and value, just pure value add that you can do? How can you connect with the market? How can you share a little bit about your life and your personality? This is the one that most people shy away from on LinkedIn. And I'm going to tell you right now, double down on that. I'm not telling you need to post about your last meal like an Instagram influencer, but if you are, sharing personal stories and sharing your life experience, that builds connection with people, right? And we're in a society of AI and chat GPT and all these things, which you should leverage. I love. But if you don't know how to leverage
Mm.
those properly, or if you're just stuck in this sea of noise, you have to be creative to capture attention, right? And so one of the things, little side note tip, is like, make sure you're using pictures on LinkedIn now. My post with pictures most recently, and I'm talking about pictures that don't even have anything to do with the post,
Mm.
it's creative in the ad world, right? It's a creative. So you're looking at getting somebody to stop the feed is usually done with an image or a video. And so,
100%.
yeah, just if you become more mindful when you're out on the weekends, whether you're shopping or fishing or whatever, and you just find ways for you to capture yourself in candid moments. Here's the thing, in ways that are authentic to you, because there's certain shit that I do sometimes and I'm like, yeah, that makes me cringe. Right. And I don't think people should do cringeworthy things. It's not authentic. Right. That doesn't mean you're not going to step outside of your comfort zone, but finding ways to have people just capture photos of you so you can use that for your posts is going to
Mm.
drastically impact those results. It's worth it.
Yeah, it will. Absolutely. It's because this network, like this market, even the recruit market, it's a people's market, right? It's like people
Yeah.
buy from people, people buy into people. It's the whole thing. You're placing people. That's effectively your
Yeah.
products, right? And your offer. But for some reason, when it comes to LinkedIn, people feel like they can't show their personality. I don't know if it's from like everyone thinks you have to be way too
Well, it's
professional and
all the
have some sort
rules
of,
that everybody puts out there, right? You got to do it this way. And
yeah,
LinkedIn's not for personal, man. It's like, hey, if everyone's going right, I'm going to tell you make a left. That's how you stand out, right?
that is how, yeah, I
Find
was
out where
about to say
everybody
it's
else is
how you
going and
stand
go the
out.
opposite direction. I mean, that's me. I'm a contrarian, and it's served me in my life. So,
Yeah.
but
No, absolutely.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's spot on. It's just, yeah, it's about standing out, getting people to buy into your journey. That's the thing as well. Like you say, with being authentic, I think a lot of people prevent themselves from putting stuff out there because they might not be in the position where they have 30 years experience, where they've ticked off XYZ. That doesn't matter. People still want to see
yep,
your progression, and you will progress over the next few coming months, years, and so on. And people want to be a part of that. People love being, I think, part of a journey of something.
yeah.
So definitely what I've seen on my end as well, being relatively young in the game, I just try and document everything that I can, tell a story of where I've learned something, where I've had a big win, where I've had a big loss. And it's just, trying to be authentic with what I'm doing. And I feel like people start to buy into the journey a little bit. So it's always, I think you can
That's a
use whatever
huge
position you
point
have
right
to your
there.
advantage,
Yeah,
you know,
I think you make
even
a
if you're new
great
to the
point there,
game.
Harry. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, because
it's,
that whole journey part is, I think you tapped into a common fear there. Oh well, I don't have enough. I don't know enough. I'm the imposter. 7 years ago, I didn't know shit about the recruiting industry. I didn't know the difference between contingent, retain, contain, staffing, direct hire. I went out, committed to it, learned it. Now I might know it better than most people, right? From what and meaning that from like a marketing standpoint, that's what I've committed myself to, is learning the industry. So yeah, there was certainly a part of time where I knew I could help people, but there was voice in the back of my head that wanted me to play small because I wasn't endorsed by anybody and I didn't grow up in the recruiting industry. But just to kind of go to your point and to validate that point, I talked to a lady 2 weeks ago, and her exact words to me, Harry, were, Donnie, it's been such a joy following you on your journey. You've grown so much over these last years, and now she's a client of mine. Right. And so if I would
amazing.
have stayed behind, she didn't get to experience this journey of my growth. Right. And I'm okay with that. I'm here to
Mm,
progress. I'm here. I'm happy to be better than what I was 5 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago. That's just what I take pride in myself personally, and for my clients too. So I think that that's where sometimes our ego kind of gets in the way, is like, oh well, it's not perfect. Here's another way of looking at it. While you're getting better and while you're starting, nobody's watching anyways. So you might as well
so
start while you have
true.
no audience. You might as well start to
So
polish it
true.
and get better while nobody's watching. I mean, that's the time to do it and go on that journey and be on this experience of, building a personal brand and creating content, because the potential rewards for it. Why do you do this? Okay, let's cut through all the noise. Money, impact. I make good money from my personal brand. I make a great impact from my personal brand. There's also other opportunities that come from this. Speaking on a podcast with Harry.
Hmm.
I have partnerships with different technology companies, and they approach me. They want to partner with me because of what I've been able to develop and the following, the little following I've been able to develop in this space. And so I'm not saying that that's why people should do it, but there's other benefits with my clients are being offered. Yeah, they get inbound leads, but they're also getting offered to be able to speak on stages and things like that because of the perception they have in the marketplace. So there's so many, yeah, there's the financial impact. There's the just general impact that you get to have on society and the market and your passion, if you're really, truly passionately, out there to help people. And then, yeah, the other ways of notoriety and recognition and other opportunities that come from it. There's just so much that people don't even really
Hmm.
consider. And none of this was what
100%.
I never thought that would happen as I went out and started doing any of this, right? It's all just kind of fallen in my lap. So it's excellent, opportunities that come from going all in on these types of things and seeing it for myself and other people.
Absolutely. No, it's amazing. And I resonate with that a lot. What you said was you need to get like basically the crap bit out of the way at the beginning where no one's looking at any of your posts.
Yeah.
That allows you to have the time to test, to make mistakes. I know for the first like 10 months of posting on LinkedIn, basically no one saw it, right? And it was kind of good
Right.
because I look back and they're really, really cringy. I would be embarrassed to post
Oh
that.
yeah.
But it's where you get to learn about yourself. You get to learn about what you can post, what people were engaging with, and
Yep.
just whatever you do. If it's outbound marketing, like we specialize in, getting inbound leads, becoming more of a industry, like name, all the stuff you specialize in, you're not going to become an expert at it overnight. It just doesn't work like that. And becoming the best
Exactly.
recruiter possible, no one gets into this game and learns it overnight. So it's all around delaying the gratification, I think, and just starting that journey as soon as possible because
Yeah.
people will be there for the journey. You have to get the bad bit out of the way at the start. And then when you're in a position like you are, 7 years down the line, and it's now it probably seems kind of effortless, right, to create these posts and just get inbound leads,
Yeah.
right? And that's the position people want to be in. Everyone wants to get to that end destination, don't they, as quickly as possible.
Yep.
But I think, just realizing things take time and just documenting the journey and being okay with that is really all you can do because, you're much more authentic on the journey. You're much happier with the outcome. because I think one of the big things is just expectations of people. I think so many people, I do think social media plays into this a lot.
Oh
So many
yeah.
people have false expectations. Um, Seeing stuff, people blowing up on Instagram and TikTok and making all this money, probably not realizing that half of it is marketing and it's not
Yes.
even
Yep.
real, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But it leads
Sensationalized
them to
view.
have these
Yep.
false expectations. So yeah, what are your opinions on that? All the all the stuff you see on TikTok and Instagram leading with people's expectations. What do you think they should truly listen to and like look at?
I mean, if it smells like bullshit, it probably is, right? And so I think that there's a lot of people that have had a lot of success and built really wildly successful businesses online, and I think there's a big part of that crowd that actually hasn't, right? And so I think that it's a matter of, I think first off, when you're looking at following people is, do they have some sort of credibility? Do they have a place that they've already been to that you want to go, right? Is one of the big things to focus on. And so, I think that's what you want to be looking at is there a following? One of the things that I always try to drive the narrative on, because I don't have the badge of like, oh, I own my own recruiting firm. So I've always had to combat and work against that. Oh, well, I've just helped 350 firms, do this. And so one of the ways that I'm doing, making sure that people understand that, or in driving, well, why should you listen? Why should I listen to you, Donnie? I mean, there's a lot of other recruiting coaches out there. Like, why am I going to stop and listening to you? Oh, it's because I have a track record of success. My clients win. So, it's going down. And if you're looking at it and who you want to evaluate is like, hey, have they been where you want to go? And then actually go see, have they actually helped other people do this? Do they have testimonials? Do they have those types of things out there? And then, yeah, I mean, there are a couple of few overnight successes in the online world, in the marketing world, in the recruiting world, but that's not that's not it. Right. And it's more of like, well, what seems like me? What's the actual reality and the realistic versus all of the flash. Right. So I actually I have a very small network that I follow because I don't want a bunch of opinions from people that I don't trust. I don't want a bunch of opinions, and it's not even really about the opinions. It's about the noise. Right. And this one might actually, I think what I try to pride myself on my content is I actually don't want to add as too much value. I think adding too much value actually keeps people stuck. So if you're, a big part of, when you're creating your content is if you can get it to the point where you're giving somebody so much, but that you open up a gap at the end of it where you're like, oh, I need that next piece. That's how we get the inbound lead going, is where we create a gap from where they're at and where they want to go. But if you're always posting value, this might shock you, but you actually might keep somebody stuck. In what a lot of people now, I mean, we're in the information society, right? I mean, and that was before AI just kind of happened to us 2 years ago or a year and a half ago or whatever the timeline is, right? Well, now, I mean, that before AI, we had YouTube, Google, we could still go get all this information anywhere. And people don't need information. They need implementation. They need strategies. They need action. Right. And so that's where there's a lot of people that go around, hop from Facebook group to Facebook group, getting all these free ideas, but they never actually implement everything fully and get a system set up in place. And then they wonder, well, I've tried all of these things, but it doesn't work. Well, you can only gather so much information before you need to actually put boots on the ground, implement things, test things, tweak things. With my clients, what works for, client A is not going to work for client B. We have a formula that we use that tests things out to figure out, well, what makes sense to their individual markets. And how do we go and become viewed as that person? So,
yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's like, I just thought of this analogy off the top of my head now, but it's like you don't learn to ride a bike by reading a book on how to ride a bike. You get on the
you
bike
get
and you
on that
start
damn thing
pedaling.
and ride it. Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
it's exactly the same, I think, with this. It's like, yes, you can learn stuff by reading, by looking at information, by watching YouTube videos. You're never going to learn that much by doing that, though. You're going to learn by far the vast majority by actually doing it,
Yep.
whether it's failing from it and learning lessons or winning and learning lessons. Either way, you learn something and you progress the next time you do it. So I think it's just a huge thing around taking action. And I think that's what, all the successful recruiters, all the successful marketers, all of the successful brand names that we see have that bias towards just taking action, right? No matter what it is. I think a lot of recruiters do this on the recruiting side. For some reason, they just don't do it as much on maybe the content side. And it's just having that common mindset to just, attack things, get things done, even though you know it's not going to be perfect to start, you learn as you go on. I think that's just definitely, that's what served me well as well. Just trying to, get stuff done, even though you know it's not going to be perfect. Over time, it just gets better and better and better. And like you say, that compound effect is so real. It really, really
Oh yeah.
happens. But to achieve that, you just have to keep going. It really is like you just have to keep going. No matter if things get tough, if things get really easy, not to get distracted either way, and just to continue going on that path, and things just get better and better and better. So very much a long journey, very much a long journey. I've just realized the time as well. I don't want to keep you for too long. So I think it'll be good to finish by finding out where people can find you and exactly how you can help them. So for any recruiters that are still listening at this point, you probably love the stuff that Donnie said. You probably want to get in touch with him and learn a little bit more about what he's got going on. So I suppose, Donnie, this is your chance to sort of explain the programs you've got, the marketing agency, and things like that.
Yep. So very easy place to connect with me. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. So send me a connection request, and then let me know that you watch this podcast. If you want to talk about it, we can hop on the phone call. My Relevant Recruiter program is a 90-day coaching program where we kind of make inbound and outbound work together. We get you clear on a very crystal clear target market and understanding your buying and hiring persona. Get you really to stand out to that individual market. Then from there, we help you really take and do personalized messaging at scale. And this is where we get our inbound and outbound to kind of work together. So we've got a great outbound process on LinkedIn that is multi-channel. And then we feed that into, because we're building an audience by doing it that way. And then we start getting into that habit of creating content and generating those inbound leads. So we've got a very proven system. Like I've mentioned before, 350 firms have done this. You can go to donniegupton.com/testimonials to see the success stories. My YouTube channel, I've got video testimonials on there. So however I can support, if you're ready to invest in the program, those are the best ways to do it. Also have a ton of free resources, and my LinkedIn tune-up is $97, where I will actually review your LinkedIn profile, give you detailed feedback on your profile, your messaging, your content for $97. It's a great value. It's a great way to start kind of working with me. I deliver all that with a 15-minute personalized video to you so that you can make the tweaks necessary to start winning on LinkedIn.
Amazing, amazing. I think everyone's going to really, really enjoy the gems you've dropped. Dropped a lot of value, and hopefully it's been really useful for everyone listening. So yeah, really, really appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to seeing more of your success in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Harry. Really appreciate it. And hopefully everybody at least walked away with one nugget here. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we'll keep it going.
Absolutely. Awesome.